Hello everybody, and welcome to Profit or Loss Kaladesh Booster Draft. Here we go. Let's just go ahead and start. Alrighty, so let's talk about the draft quickly. So, pack 1, pick 1 was Confiscation Coup. Pretty obvious pick there, and again, any card stealing in Limited is pretty broken. Then after that, here's where we started. First 3 picks: Confiscation Coup, Skywhaler Shot, Fairgrounds Warden. So I figured, alright, we are on our way to a really good blue-white deck. It's going to be control, it's going to have tempo, this is looking pretty good. But after that, unfortunately, the white cards dried up, and the blue cards pretty much dried up as well. So after about 4 picks, I started noticing that a lot of great black cards were getting passed. Ambitious Aetherborn kept getting passed, Tidy Conclusion got passed, and I forget what the other one that got passed was. It was either Foundry Screecher or Lawless Broker. So when I started noticing that those cards were getting passed, go figure, I immediately did a 180 and went into black. In pack 2, I was able to pick up Eliminate the Competition and Cloud Blazer, so I still kind of held on to maybe I go into white, but the white cards continued to be completely dried up, and so then when I drew a... Where is it? Oh, bother. There we go. So when I drew a Fretwork Colony, that was pretty much it. I was going into black, and I just ignored the white cards from then on. So yeah, I kept drafting blue-black, and blue-black is supposed to be the control deck, but I went into more aggro, which I'll talk about during the deck tech, because I kept getting a lot of great aggro cards. Picked up a couple of Live Fast, because I was starting to get some energy synergy. And then third pack, cracked open Multiform Wonder and celebrated. You know what really frustrates me, though? I didn't get to play this card in a single game. Again, more on that later. And then, you know, I just kept picking black cards, picked up a couple Eager Constructs because there were some artifact synergies, and then picked up this just because, hey, it was there, and I did not want a red deck playing it against me. I really don't have any negatives about how this draft went. There was one card that I passed. It was that black flying card that that when it comes into play, you move +1/+1s onto it. I ended up taking Eliminate the Competition over it, and I mean, that's a win card, but that thing is mean. I really wish I would have had it, because I ended up losing to it in the final game of the day, but oh well. Anyway, draft over, let's move on to the deck tech. Alrighty, so now that we've done the profit or loss, unfortunately we didn't make any money, but let's do a deck tech here. So the deck that I came up with out of all those cards was a blue-black deck. Now usually blue-black in Kaladesh is a control deck, but I got a lot of good aggressive cards. For example, Well-Fast Wingsmith, Multiform Wonder, and Gearseeker Serpent. Great finishers, all 3 of them. Unfortunately, I did not draw Multiform Wonder in a single match. Come on, what kind of shenanigans is that? 10 games, I'm drawing like 12, 13 cards per game, and I did not see that card once. What are the odds of that? Anyway, again, aggressive cards. We got Fabricate Synergies. Basically, this deck, I got a lot of cards that care about having artifacts. So, basically, these 3 are my main Artifacts Matters black cards that I got. Foundry Screecher, good attack through the air. Pretty much any flying creature is great in Limited. This one, if you get an artifact, it's a 3/2 Death Touch for 2 mana. And this one is a 3/1 menace when you have an artifact. So those are my primary aggressive creatures. Then this is the typical blue-black control card that usually makes you want to play the control variant, Contraband Kingpin. It lets you scry whenever you get an artifact, which is very nice, and lifelink, so it stalls. So those were the primary synergies in my deck. Then I also got Fretwork Colony. That card is great if you can get it out on turn 2. Unfortunately, like every time I played that card, it just got dead. Yes, it got dead. And I have a ways with linguistics. Okay, but that's pretty much primarily the deck. It's an aggro build deck, so we have all these 3/1s that care about artifacts plus Fretwork Colony. Those are our main early game aggressive cards. Then Lawless Broker is another good card. 3/2 for 3 mana, and it makes one of your guys have a +1/+1 counter once it leaves the battlefield. So that's a great aggro card. So again, usually blue-black is control, but I definitely built aggro. Then in terms of artifacts to actually feel those cards, Inventor's Goggles is my only 1-drop. I do have 4 Artificers, so that's a good card for pumping stuff up. We got these 2 great 4-drops. This one is amazing. 3/2 Flying Haste for 4 and Iron Link Steed. We got these 2 Fabricate cards to get artifacts, Multiform Wonder to get more artifacts, and then 2 Eager Constructs, so plenty of artifacts to fuel that, and then look at all this great removal. I love it, I love it, I love it. Tidy Conclusion, instant kill. Eliminate the Competition is a huge finisher card for this deck. Basically, because this deck is creating so many small creatures that don't do very much, servos, and it's also got a couple 2/2s that aren't as relevant late game. You can basically throw those cards, with this one, you can throw away all those creatures that you really don't need and eliminate your opponent's blockers, eliminate their best creatures. Usually you're going to win when you draw this card and actually get to play it. Confiscation Coup, any take control of stuff is broken in limited. Basically, it's an automatic. You steal your opponent's, like this one, most of the good stuff in this set costs 4 or less. So, I mean, pretty much you're stealing your opponent's best card. And, they don't have it anymore, and now you have it, so it's a 2-for-1. Very, very good. Malfunction keeps things tapped down. Ether Meltdown turns one of their attackers into like a 0/4 blocker and die young. And there are some subtle energy synergies. So we got 2 energy on this one. Then we got Janjit Sentry, which creates 2 energy. We got Multiform Wonder, which gets 3 energy. And then if we really needed more energy in the sideboard, we've got 2 copies of Live Fast. But I found that this deck worked better just playing a straight up aggro curve rather than going for the card advantage war. If I was playing the blue-black control deck, which is what I started playing, these would have been a lot more relevant. But yeah, and then I did get a lot of relevant sideboard cards. These 2 are great for control matchups. This one's good. If your opponent is playing, usually if your opponent is playing a defensive strategy, that's good because it gives extra power to your creatures and keeps them from being stopped by their big blockers. This one's better against small creatures because, again, usually small creatures are only going to be 2/2s, 3/3s. The 4 toughness is relevant there. I'd switch that in sometimes if I needed to play faster. And again, these were against control. This one was against control matchups. In a long, grindy game, it can give you cards back when they kill them. And I didn't end up playing either of these cards, but they're there, again, usually for more high-range decks that you play against. So I really liked this deck. I thought it was very, very good. So why did we only go 2 and 2? Well, let's recap. Basically, I started out playing against a black-white Fabricate deck, and the deck worked pretty much like you'd expect. I ended up winning because I got a bunch of creatures that were very difficult to block. I got Foundry Screecher, I got Weldfast Wingsmith, and I just kept attacking and attacking, and they couldn't really do anything. My removal spells traded with their cards, and I did end up winning that match 2-0. So, good start. And not much to add there. They were very, very close matches. I was threatened a couple times, but eventually I just had creatures that they couldn't block. Gearseeker Serpent won me the second game. So yeah, pretty much it just went according to plan. Oh yeah, and also this is 24 things, 6 removal spells, 18 creatures, and 16 lands. 8 of each. I was tempted to go 8-6, but because I don't need a lot of blue mana, but eventually I decided to just stick with even. It did never affect me, so it worked out. Second match, I played against a green-white deck with a splash of blue, and that deck was very, very slow, and I pretty much, because I was playing all these creatures in the aggro curve, pretty much just wiped it out. 2 games, nothing, and I was up 2 matches to no matches. And then I went to the feature match area and played against a... Oh, what deck did he have? It was actually a 4-color deck. He was running green, black, white, and then he splashed red for 1 copy of Unlicensed Disintegration. First game, I got Gearseeker Serpent down on turn 5, and it was immediately met with Unlicensed Disintegration. I got land flooded. I ended up with 8 lands in play, and I just lost the race. He ended up with more stuff in play than I could take care of. Second game. Man, that game was close. Basically, again, we traded board states. He had 5 things out. I had 5 things out. This deck has the higher end of the curve, though. Because I have Eliminate the Competition, Confiscation, Coup, and all these removal spells, eventually I won the card advantage matchup, and I knocked out his stuff, and he had a lot of artifact synergies. He had things like that Mastodon creature that is a 4/5 vigilance, and I was successfully able to kill it with Tidy Conclusion right before it could kill me, and I eked out a win in that game because I had Gearseeker Serpent and Foundry Screecher, and I just kept killing, and I killed all of his flying creatures, and so he couldn't block Foundry Screecher, and Gearseeker Serpent I'm able to make unblockable, and eventually I just... And that's the thing, is this deck wins board stalls because it has creatures that are very hard to block. So I won game 2. Game 3, I got stuck on 2 lands and I lost. So I went to 2-1. And then the final match, it was a very good, first game, my opponent had a green-black deck, and it was basically a deck of Fabricate and +1/+1 counters and combat tricks. First game, my opponent got stuck on nothing but green mana, and I plowed over him and used Confiscation Coup on his vehicle, and yeah, that wasn't even close. He scooped very quickly. Second game, we went back and forth, and the turning point of that game was when I had, no, I didn't have Fretwork Colony. I forget exactly what creature it was, but I had a creature out, and he killed it with a combat trick that I did not see coming, because the disadvantage of the first game is that I barely got to see any of the cards in his deck, so I didn't know he was going to be running combat tricks, and it was a 1-for-1 trade situation. He ended up wiping out one of my great creatures, and he won the second game because he just eventually killed more stuff than I could play. And then in the third game, this one I have to talk about. First of all, we both mulliganed to 6. My opening hand had 1 island and a ton of expensive stuff. Obvious mulligan. At 6 cards, I ended up with 1 island, Fretwork Colony, Doomed Operative, and all 3 of my, and Die Young, 3 of my black 2-drops, and then I had Gearseeker Serpent and something else that, and confiscation coup. With one land in my hand, which was not black, even though I had my 3 best black 2-drops, basically, I mean, first of all, he mulliganed to 5, so that kind of gave me an incentive to, say, okay, well, it's okay if I mulligan to 5 also. But, it's just, unfortunately, it was down to, I do not win this game unless I hit a black mana. If I hit a black mana, I'm probably winning it. If I don't hit a black mana, I probably lose. So I decided it wasn't worth the risk and of hitting it on the scry, and so I also mulliganed to 5. Unfortunately, on my mulligan to 5, I drew no lands, and so I mulliganed to 4, and I had an opening hand with 4 lands and nothing else. I had to keep it. And unfortunately, he had a copy of Fretwork Colony. He had a combat trick to take down my Eager Construct when I tried to block it, and that was it. I lost that match 1-2. So that was my final record. 2 games, 2 matches to 2. My game win record was 6-4. I really don't have any complaints about this deck. This was a pretty damn good deck. Even in the matches that, I did lose 2 matches, but I competed right along with the other decks in both of those matches. This deck could have gone 3-0 or 4-0 given different draws. It had the tools needed to win. So I'm totally happy with it. I mean, we went 2-2. It doesn't sound good, but I feel like this deck is a bit better than 2-2. This was a good deck. So, didn't make any money, didn't win any prizes, but I had fun. Those were very good matches. And again, the point of these is for me to learn. I'm trying to get in shape for getting back into Magic after being off of it for a long time. I want to prepare for the Pro Tour qualifier this weekend at Frogtown. So there we go. That is my blue-black deck. That was my draft. See you guys next time.